The Airplane Alphabet Book. The ability to fly is one of mankind's greatest achievements. For thousands of years, people have watched birds and wondered what it would be like to fly and to see the earth from above. People wish they could magically travel long distances in a short time, or go over mountains without climbing, or cross oceans without sailing on a long voyage. Many clever people attempted to fly in various contraptions over the years. Some tried balloons, and some tried gliders. Finally, on December 17, 1903, in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, Wilbur and Orville Wright flew the first airplane. Since the invention of the airplane, people can now fly. A is for AT-6. The Aviation Trainer Six is an important airplane because it was used to train thousands of pilots all over the world. Receiving a pilot's license is still a wonderful accomplishment. B is for B-17. If you ever see an airplane with the letter B in its name, it means bomber. The B-17 was used in World War II to help the Allies win the war. This American plane was also called the Flying Fortress, and it usually flew with a crew of 10 people. C is for China Clipper. The China Clipper was a flying boat. In the early years of passenger flying, businessmen and famous people wanted to fly to faraway places. Many of these countries, such as China and India, did not have airports or runways. Who needs a runway when you can land in a harbor? D is for Dauntless. The ever-increasing speeds of airplanes created a new problem: how to stop. Flaps were invented. The flaps slow a plane down when it is diving or coming in for a landing. The Dauntless had something new in its design: Swiss cheese flaps. E is for Electra. The Electra has 2 tails. In wind tunnel tests, engineers figured out that this plane would go out of control in certain situations if it only had 1 tail. So it was redesigned with 2. F is for Ford Trimotor. This airplane has 3 engines. It was a popular plane for exploration because 3 engines are safer than 1 or 2. In 1929, a Ford Trimotor with skis instead of wheels was the first airplane to fly over the South Pole. G is for Goonie Bird. This airplane was a DC-3, a Douglas Commercial 3. At one time, this airplane carried 9 out of every 10 air passengers in the United States. The Goonie Bird's other nickname was Skytrain. H is for Hercules Flying Boat. This huge all-wood cargo plane is also called the Spruce Goose. It only flew once, but it still holds the record for having the longest wingspan of any airplane ever built. At one time, some engineers thought there would never be a metal airplane. Those pessimists were wrong. Today, planes and jets are made with strong, lightweight metals such as aluminum and titanium. I is for Invader. This warbird was usually painted black, so it would be difficult to see during nighttime missions. Flying at night and in terrible weather posed many problems. Instruments were invented: the directional gyro, the radar, the fuel gauge, the transponder, the altimeter, the airspeed indicator, the artificial horizon, the turn coordinator, and the vertical speed indicator. These instruments, along with a clock and a compass, allow pilots to fly safely without looking out the window. J is for Jenny. The Jenny was a barnstorming plane. Huge crowds would come from miles around to see these traveling air shows. Barnstormer pilots earned their pay by doing wild stunts such as walking on the wing, diving at the crowd, and flying loop-de-loops. Don't try this at home. K. Most airplanes have a propeller in the front. The propeller pulls the airplane and blows air over the wing. Each wing is shaped so that the air travels faster over the top of the wing than under the bottom of the wing. This causes lift. The wings of birds are shaped the same way. K is for Kyushu. The airplane had a propeller on its tail. L. L is for lightning. This famous airplane has a very unique design. It has one pilot, but it has two engines and two fuselages. The fuselage is the body of the plane, and the cockpit is where the pilot sits. M. M is for Messerschmitt. These planes are looking for a dogfight. A dogfight is an aerial battle between two or more fighter planes while flying close to each other. The Messerschmitt was a German fighter plane in World War II. It is common for fighter planes to fly in a V formation. N. N is for Navy Duck. This seaplane does not quack, but it can take off from and land on the water. Instead of wheels, some planes have pontoons. A pontoon is a float that is attached to the airplane. O. O is for Osprey. Is it a helicopter, an airplane, a jet with propellers, or is it a little of all three? This aircraft's radical design was developed so that it could take off vertically. Maybe it should not be in an airplane book. You decide. While you're busy reading this book, some men and women are busy in the control tower directing air traffic. P. P is for Piper Cub. Today, almost anyone can fly a plane if they work hard, go to flight school, and get a pilot's license. Many people fly single-engine airplanes called Cubs. They may fly to work in another state, take a friend for a ride, or go sightseeing. Q. Q is for Queen Air. There was a passenger airplane called the Queen Air, but there's a more important Q. Q is also for question mark. In 1929, aviation history was made when an Atlantic 2CA airplane named the question mark flew nonstop for more than 4 days. It never ran out of gas because it was refueled while in flight. Pilots jokingly call this passing gas. Oh no! A plane crashed! Is anyone hurt? Did the pilot survive? Were there passengers? Did it crash into anyone's house? We are sorry about the crash, but there is nothing to worry about. It was only a remote-controlled model airplane. Building and flying model airplanes is a great hobby. R. R is for Ryan. In May 1927, Charles Lindbergh was the first person to fly a solo nonstop flight across the Atlantic Ocean. It was a remarkable feat, and he was an instant hero. He named his plane the Spirit of St. Louis. Look closely at the design of this Ryan airplane. It doesn't have a front window. Every inch of extra space was used to store fuel. S. S is for Spitfire. What a great name! Spitfire! Spitfire! Don't you just love saying it? The British fell in love with this airplane. Its elliptical wing made it maneuver slightly better than the Messerschmitt, and eventually it ruled the skies over Europe in World War II. The aircraft carrier version was called the Seafire. T. T is for triplane. Engineers thought they could get just as much lift with 3 short wings as they could with 1 long wing. They were right. The triplane did not fly as fast as a bi-wing or a monowing, but it did have an advantage. The short wings made it easier to store in a hangar. A hangar is a garage for an airplane. U. U is for ultralight. Have you ever seen those tiny airplanes flying over your neighborhood? They sound like giant bumblebees. Flying an ultralight is as close as you can get to being a bird. V. V is for Vega. Vega is the type of airplane that Amelia Earhart flew. In the early years of flying, not many women were pilots. Amelia Earhart was the first woman to fly solo non-stop across the United States. She was also the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. In 1937, Amelia Earhart disappeared over the Pacific Ocean in an Electra while trying to fly around the world. W. W is for Wright Flyer. The Wright Brothers' 12-second flight made history because they accomplished 3 things at once. They flew a heavier-than-air craft, the plane became airborne under its own power, and Orville controlled the aircraft. Wilbur and Orville Wright would be proud to know that only 66 years later, astronaut Neil Armstrong brought a piece of the original Wright Flyer to the moon and back. X. X is for Xingu. The Xingu is a Brazilian twin-engine six-seater that is used to transport VIPs, very important people. Whenever you see the initial X in the name of an aircraft, it usually means experimental. Y. Y is for yak. No, not the mammal, the airplane. This Russian plane was named after Alexander Yakovlev, the man who designed it. It is much easier to call it a yak than a Yakovlev, or a yakety-yak. Maybe you will go to college, study aerodynamics, and design a plane someday too. Z. Z is for zero. During World War II, Americans had nicknames for enemy aircraft. The nicknames made it easy to identify the planes. Zero is the nickname of a Mitsubishi A6M fighter plane. There are a zillion other airplane nicknames such as Barbara, Jill, Liz, Kate, and Nick. What is that strange sound? Look up. There is a flying machine that has no propellers. How could this be? What is it? Whatever it is, a new age is here. Jets!